Welcome, listeners. This is episode number 7 of The Business of Writing in Romance. And I'm one of your hosts, Rachel Herron,
I'm Carolyn Jewell.
and we are going to talk to Jennifer Skully, aka Jasmine Haynes, today. Excited about that. Just chatting a little bit before she comes on. Carolyn, I saw a tweet from you, and I'd love you to explain it. I believe you were you were mad at plotters telling pantsers to something. Tell me about the tweet. What was the emotion behind that? Because I believe it
I,
used the word shut the fuck up.
yeah, I used an acronym for that.
STFU.
Um, well, basically, I just had been listening to another interview of an author who has a book out about writing methods and how to write, very quickly. And the advice boils down to basically, a bunch of pre-planning and outlining. And in the course of that interview, she said things that many plotters seem to say about pantsers, which is that somehow they, are throwing away all this work, and if only they would plan ahead of time and follow an outline, that they would be able to write without having to throw away work. And it's just like there's like steam coming out my ears. And partly because she was not recognizing the fact that when a person who needs that structure is spending time putting that structure in place, that counts. That's writing time, and it's word count.
Yeah.
Because the outline doesn't appear in the book. So this idea that somehow this plotting doesn't count toward writing the book is ridiculous.
I have never even thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And so what's the difference if I'm not spending that upfront time because it's packed into a different process?
Right. A process that works for you.
Exactly.
Now let me ask you, was this, and I don't need to know who it was, but was this a romance writer talking or someone else?
She has written in romance, yes.
Okay. Because I seem to think that in romance, when we talk about our processes, and tell me if you agree with this or not, that we tend to be really good at saying, this works for me, it might not work for you. Whereas in other arenas of writing, I hear a lot of, this is the only way to do it. This is the right way.
Yeah, the funny thing was that she kept saying, well, I know there's people who, basically pants their novels, and yet she wasn't, and yet she kept saying, but, plot. It's like, no.
Yeah.
No, but as someone pointed out on Twitter, that if, to the extent that pantsers are saying, give up your wonderful office supplies, and we've had that discussion before. I want them so badly.
They're not for you.
But you know what? Pantsers who do that should also shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I think there's...
Because if office supplies and outlines and pre-planning are what gives you, the structure to get your work done, then you should absolutely do that.
Yep. My firm belief...
Your cat.
Yes.
Or cat butt.
Oh, gosh.
We need a bell. Or cat butt.
We don't have cowbell. We have cat butt on this show. Oh, God. I'm going to try to ignore him. What was I going to say? Oh, the thing that I always try to go back to, though, is I always encourage people to try both ways if they're not finishing books.
Oh, absolutely.
If they think they're a pantser, but they can't finish a book, they should try plotting. If they think they're a plotter, but they're not finishing books, they should try pantsing all the way to an end. Because I don't think you really know what you are until you've maybe failed at one of the other ways.
Yes, I have my plotting failure.
Yeah, with your second, or is it your third book? Yeah.
The second was the second book.
Yeah. Was
the plotting failure.
And I have my pantsing failures. I have like 4 pantsing failures.
Yeah. Well, so while we're waiting for Scully, I have a funny story, funny to me.
Tell me.
But also like good news. So I have this box set of books that I am planning to put on sale, partly because I want the metrics. I haven't done like a big sale that wasn't for a free book.
Yeah.
Um, so I applied for a book bub, kind of thinking, well, I mean, we'll see if I get it. And because I kind of thought, well, it's got a good cover and it's like a box set of like 3 full-length novels, and I'm going to put it on sale for 99 cents. So I
Yeah.
thought, hopefully they'll like it. And it's like I don't hear anything. I thought, wow, like they didn't even reject me and say sorry. That's awful. And like 5 days later, I finally go, maybe I should just look through the disaster that is my inbox. I have so many filters, and yet my main inbox, and what do you know? There was the email from BookBub saying, "Yes, we'd love to have you. Here's your date." It's like, oh crap!
What if you had missed that entirely? Ooh.
I and you know what the worst thing was? And I was actually shocked to see it because I have the worst time looking in that BookBub section where you have to like give comments and you should be like, selling yourself. And I'm looking at this going to myself, it's 3 full-length novels. How is this not a good deal? Is it not obvious to you?
Right.
It's stupid, me.
I don't ever know what to put in there. What did you end up putting in there?
I did very little.
You know what I've resorted to, like, I'll say 4.3 stars, comma, 287 reviews, and thanks, exclamation mark. I don't know what else
Yeah.
to put.
I think I put in, like USA Today best-selling author, like one of the books was a Rita finalist, another one was
Oh,
just, I think I put in stuff. I can't even remember.
yeah.
But I remember thinking, this is like, they're going to look at this and go,
But they didn't.
they didn't.
I really want to hear how that sale goes,
Yeah, it's
because I've
scheduled.
never done a box set on BookBub. And when is
Yeah,
it?
it'll be August 13th.
Okay.
And then I was thinking, oh, I have to schedule all these price things. And I'm going, oh, wait a minute. Amazon won't be a problem because it's
Right.
price change.
Exactly.
Instead of trying to make sure that everything's, but still, I'll get it set to that price a couple days ahead of time just to make sure that
Yeah.
everything takes. And I have that calendared. And so I have to, in the meantime, decide like what supporting stuff I'm going to do. Like if there's other email lists that I want to hit to kind of
Yeah.
support that. So I should probably set that.
Well, it seems to me that since Amazon did those changes where they were pulling out a bunch of affiliate linked accounts, it seems like those newsletters that we buy ad space in have more space. And I'm not sure why that is, but I've had no problem getting e-reader news today, free booksy, things that it used to be kind of hard to get in the time frame that you wanted. They seem to have more availability. So, what else do you use? I use e-reader news today, free booksy. I used to use Fussy Librarian, but didn't they? Are they one of the ones that went down?
No, they're still
They're
up.
still okay. Okay, yeah, I like
I
them.
would totally use them again.
Yeah.
I've found that they're very effective for iBooks.
Oh, that's
So
good to
that
know.
was at least my experience
Yeah,
with, I think it was a historical novel.
yeah.
Yeah, it did very well. So I would totally use them again. But also Robin Reed's.
Oh, okay. I have never used that one.
Yeah, that one actually was pretty effective. It was one of the more cost-effective ones.
Oh, okay, good.
Uh, I mean, my data is now like a year and a half old,
Yeah.
roughly. But that one performed very well for me, so I would definitely do that. Um, so I can pull out hold on a second, my head's going to disappear.
But not the brain.
Not the
Um,
brain, we hope.
I had
Yes.
real good success when I had a book bub a few months ago. I did the book bub I just happened to get it on a Sunday, which is a great day to have it. Um, and then I got ads throughout the week, the rest of the week. And I didn't do that on my last book bub, which I had a few weeks ago. And I'll just mention that real briefly. The first 3 books in my Cypress Hollow series are published through HarperCollins, so I can't put those on sale. But the fourth and fifth are mine. So I put the fourth up on BookBub just to see what would happen. And because it's the fourth, even though I was real clear to state everywhere, standalone, great entry into Rachel Herron's world, all of that stuff, it just didn't perform as well at BookBub as it usually does. It was a free book. So
So the books that I used this when I was doing my big push for a free historical was efreebooks.org,
ooh,
BookSense, Reading Deals, Kindle Books and Tips, My Romance Reads, Fussy Librarian, Fiction Vixen,
Oh, I've never
Free
heard that.
Booksy,
Yep.
and
Robin Reads, is that on there?
Robin Reads. And I wonder if she's not. Some of those people have like their actual list name, and then what comes through on their PayPal account is completely different. So sometimes it was hard for me to match the money spent with the list. So it's possible that Reading Deals is the Robin one, but it's not, I'm not sure. But it was super cheap, and it did pretty well.
We will look into that. Okay, we are delighted to welcome today Jennifer Skully, who is a friend of both mine and Carolyn's, and New York Times and USA Today bestselling author. Jennifer Skully is a lover of contemporary romance, bringing you poignant tales peopled with hilarious characters that will make you laugh and make you cry. Writing as Jasmine Haynes, she's authored over 35 classy, sensual romance tales about real issues like growing older, facing divorce, and starting over. And her books have passion and heart and humor and happy endings, even if they aren't always traditional. She also writes gritty paranormal mysteries in the Max Starr series. And hello, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you both so much for having me.
Absolutely, we are thrilled.
Hello.
Great. I love this new technology with the whole Skype thing. It's wonderful. I've been Skyping with my brother in Cambodia and my relatives in England and Norway. It's just fabulous.
It's kind of this little miracle, right?
I know.
It really is.
Keeps my 90-year-old mother in touch with her English relatives, and she's like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
that's so nice.
Yeah.
So, Jennifer, I have the first question on tap. And that is, what made you fall in love with romance?
I've loved romance since I was a little kid. Beauty and the Beast was my favorite fairy tale. I love the fairy tales, the knights in shining armor and all that stuff. And so I don't know when I fell in love with it, because I feel like I've always been in love with romance. That's why, I've always read romances. When I was in my teens, I used to go down to our little thrift store and devour all the Harlequin romances. They were like a dime a piece. And I'd buy 10 at a time, and then I'd be down there every week buying new ones. So I've just always loved it. I don't know why I started. It was just always there. I grew up with it.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What made you want to write it?
Same thing. I mean, that's what I read. That's what I loved. And it never even occurred to me to write something else when I started writing romance. My first book I wrote in high school for a class, and it was a gothic romance, because that was what I was reading, all those gothics like
Mary Stuart.
Mary Stuart, Phyllis Whitney, Victoria Holt. All those ladies. I love
those.
Yeah, so that was my first book, was writing this. It was a class that I took in high school that was creative writing, and you were supposed to write 2 short stories. And I said, do you think I could just write a book instead?
And did you finish it?
Well, yeah, I did. And so she graded me on the whole thing. And that was my first book. It was terrible, but who cared, I wrote it, and it was wonderful.
All these kids today do NaNoWriMo, and you kind of started that early,
I did. It was like, why bother writing a short story when you could write a whole book?
What was the hero's name?
Bernard. I actually remember that. I don't remember what her name was, but his name was Bernard. Don't ask me where that came from. I don't know. Did I have a boyfriend named Bernard? I don't think so. Yeah, I see kitty cats.
I know. They're chasing each other around.
That's okay. I've got them in my household.
Okay, good.
So now we put a little gold star by your name because you have identified cat butt.
Yes.
You betcha.
We have a problem with cat butt on this show. Yeah. And okay, so when did you write your first romance that was published? What year was that?
The first one that actually got published, I wrote in 2003, and it was a novella, an erotic romance novella.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was called More Than a Night. Actually, it was funny because I was writing for a small e-publisher, and the first book I wrote was for an anthology with another girl, and that was called Double the Pleasure, and it was about twins. But as it happened, the second book that I wrote on my own, that one actually came out first, More Than a Night. So It was with a small e-publisher, and it was great. It just felt so powerful to get that first romance out there.
Were you with RWA then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. RWA taught me to write when I joined in like 1995, I think.
Uh-huh.
And my writing it wasn't up to par. But that's where I learned to write was RWA. And I guess 7 years later, sold my first book. It was great.
Carolyn, when did you join? I can't remember.
Well, I joined like way back when, probably sometime in the 90s, I think. And then when I was like struggling to get that, like when I was basically plotting that third book, such a failure. I ended up not renewing my membership because I was so depressed about, like, I didn't want to read about all these writers who were, because it was really, that was still pre-internet days, and I just thought, it's just so depressing. All these people can do it, and I just apparently have, like, a two-book wonder or something. And so then I rejoined, like, in 2001.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. I think you were both at the very first meeting I ever went to.
I think so.
2008 it would have been. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jennifer, what is your writing process like? When and where do you write?
Well, I write out in my atrium, which you can't see because I don't have the computer to turn.
Yeah.
But I have an atrium out there, and it's nice and sunny, lots of flowers. So I write out there every day unless it's raining. And my cat writes out there with me. And when I'm writing a book, my goal is to write 2,500 words a day. And I write 5 days a week. I do give myself 2 days off. Mm-hmm. And also that's 2 days to catch up if I didn't make my 2,500.
Yep.
And then when I get to rewriting, to the revisions, I give myself a page count per day that I have to do. And a time limit, you need to finish this in 3 weeks or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing. I'm out in my atrium. I just love it out there. It's very inspirational. And I don't write every day. When I finished a book, I actually need some time off because it's a very, I know we're supposed to say we love writing, and I do love writing, but it's also a very draining process as well.
Yeah.
And so once I'm done with a draft, it's like, okay, I need a few days off.
Yeah.
And I do my finances or whatever it is that I might clean my house. All those things I haven't done while I'm writing during that time. So, yeah, so I do, while I'm within the book, I am making sure that I write almost every day with the exception of the 2 days off.
That sounds
incredible. And I just chunk through, and I finish a book in about 2 to 3 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Carolyn and I were just talking about this before you got online. Are you a pantser or a plotter? And maybe tell us why.
I am a plotter.
Are you?
Now, I used to be a pantser, and I loved it that way. But it would take me a year to finish a book. Well, I was working at the same time as well, so I mean that's part of the reason why it took so long. But my first series that I wrote was the Max Starr series, and that was completely pantser. I remember there was one novel in it, the second novel I think, where I didn't even know who the killer was. I just like, okay, when she figures it out, I'll figure it out. And I thought, well, then I can go back and seed in all of the stuff that needs to be in there to make that person the killer. But I realized that it was already actually there. So somehow intuitively, I knew who the killer was. I was leading that way, but I just hadn't really decided in my own mind. But when I'm trying to write a book in 2 or 3 months, 4 months, I just can't pants that way. So now I have a very detailed plot. Pretty much from beginning to end. I know what my black moment is and all that. And I fill stuff in as I'm going along. But I do have, like for the book I'm working on now, it's like an 18-page outline. So,
oh my gosh.
So everything's there, all the scenes are there, and that makes it so that I can accomplish the 2,500 words a day. Because if I don't have that, I'll get stuck. It's like, oh, what happens next? I don't know. I got to think about that. So the only way I can really accomplish that goal is to have a plot, an outline beforehand. So I have become a plotter. And actually, the first book I sold to Harlequin was plotted. I think that one had a 60-page outline. Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. But, it's sold. So, I mean, there's something to be said for...
I want to know if you use office supplies.
What? What was that?
Because I'd love to hear about it.
Oh,
Do you
if
have
you
office porn stories?
do you have office supply porn stories? Post-it stories?
No, I don't use those.
It's all really no post-it plans or big wall hangings or
No, not like that. I mean,
yeah.
because I don't move things around. I guess I'm so linear that I've heard people say, well, I have it here and then I can move all this stuff around, and I can't think that way. I think
Yeah.
it's great if you can, but I can't. So I do have what I call a roadmap. I use it on OneNote.
Okay.
Um, and it is a step-by-step outline. And I could switch things. It would be much more difficult to switch things around. Like, what is it? Scrivener has that
Hmm.
board that you can move things around. No, mine is not easy to do that. So I'm sort of stuck.
That's actually really interesting. I'm incredibly linear as a writer. I always want to jump ahead to a new scene, but that's towards the end, but I can't. I have to go step by step. But here's a really specific question for you because I have these aspirations of becoming a better plotter someday. I think I want to be a plotter, but I'm still a little bit in the pantsing camp, although not like Carolyn. But when I'm writing out I just do basically post-it notes of scenes. But I'll get to parts where I know that, this is maybe 25% of the way through the book, and I know that this is the turn at the 50% mark. But how do you, I so often just cannot fill in those gaps that will get me from there to there. Do you lie on the floor and look up at the ceiling, or how do you,
I dream at night.
do you? So do you ask the question before you go to sleep?
Yeah, I start when I go to sleep. It's like, because there's no tension in doing that.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh my God, pressure, pressure. Just falling asleep. I'm sort of dreaming, and I'm like, what really is she thinking in this scene? And what's really going on? And then as I start doing that, I'll have these little brainstorms about, oh my God, well, of course, that's what needs to happen. So I guess maybe it's sort of a little meditation. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure, but I have to, and if I'm stuck during the middle of the day, I actually will go lay down,
Nice.
close my eyes and sort of drift into some space, and hopefully something will come for me. If it doesn't, I simply skip it and I move on.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I'm writing, um, I'll suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I do need something in here, and this is what it feels like it should be. So I can have gaps in the plot when I do start, but most of the time when I get to that point, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why it was bothering me. This is what needs to be done.
You had to.
So don't feel free to leave gaps if you can't figure it out. It'll come to you as you're doing the writing, and sometimes that's when it needs to come to you because you have to learn a little bit more about your characters, which happens more in the writing than the plotting.
Right.
And I do change my plot as I'm going along sometimes because I learn stuff about the characters as I'm writing. I'm going, oh, that's not going to work. I thought this thing would have to happen, and it just can't, because I've learned more about the characters.
That makes so
So
much
when
sense.
and so in that point of view, I am a pantser because it's like, sure, this has got to change. I'm okay with that. I know at the end I'm going to be at this spot, but you make adjustments as you're going along.
I'm gonna steal that process, but the skipping, because what I tend to do is I put in a scene that I hate that I know won't make it into the book, but I'm so rigidly linear that I hate to skip that time. But
Right.
I'm just gonna try skipping it in this book that I'm writing now.
Yeah, see if
Thank
it works
you,
for you.
thank you. What is speaking of advice? What is the worst piece of writing advice you ever got?
Well, the worst piece of advice is you have to do it this way.
Amen. Carolyn and I were
That
just talking
is,
about that.
it's like everybody says, it's like you need to write every day, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. And the truth is, you don't.
Right.
I think I'm okay without writing every single day. I don't lose the book. Maybe if I didn't write for a month, I probably would, but that's okay for me. So the biggest thing I want to tell people is your process is your process. It's very personal. And what somebody else does might be great for them, but it won't necessarily work for you. And I'm guilty of doing the same thing to other people. Like a friend of mine was having a real trouble plotting. And I said, do it this way. Use my way. but it never worked for her. She found her own way, but and you can take pieces from everybody. It's like they do this piece of it and that piece of it, and that's great. And then you combine them into what's right for you. I mean, another friend of mine keeps trying to get me to use Scrivener, and I think it's probably great, but I already have my little system, and I'm just the thought of I opened up Scrivener I have it on my computer here. I even see its little icon down there, and I'm looking at it going, and my brain will explode if I have to try to figure out this new program. So I stick with my little thing in OneNote.
Well, Nora Roberts still writes in WordPerfect. She has
I didn't even know they made that still.
They don't. Her son is a computer engineer of some sort.
Yes, they do.
Oh, do they really?
Yes, they do.
Oh, Carolyn knows.
I run WordPerfect in a Parallels virtual machine on my Mac.
And do you use that?
Yes. It's a superior writing tool. It really is.
Oh, well, everything is superior to Word. Word is...
Yes, that's true.
The worst.
I'm also a Scrivener fail. I just... I tried Scrivener. I mean, I so want to use it because it's actually a tool that has kind of like the office supply concept built into it.
Yeah.
But, especially like I tried it when I had a book. I mean, I was on deadline and it was just like, I don't have time to fight with this when I got a book due. Yeah. And, to be honest, the tech support people were really good, but it's like, it shouldn't be 10 steps to, I don't know. I just was very, it's a tool I would love to be able to work because there's an aspect of it, like for keeping like a Bible, of a series that just would be great. Right. But for me, so far, it's not really worked for me.
Yeah. I sat down and took the tutorial for it, and it was just, it started giving me twitches. But there are some great things in it. So, maybe someday if I have like a month, because it would probably take me that long, I would like to sit down and kind of figure out and see if it would, because it does have those great things, that series Bible, pulling all those little facts out. That would be great. But it's not that I don't want to learn new things. It's just sometimes I feel I just don't have time. I don't have time to read.
And if we have a way that works for us, I use Scrivener, but my series Bibles are always in Excel, which is not connected to Scrivener at all. It's just the way I've always done it, and that works for me. I know how to search it.
So I have a question for you, Jennifer, because I know you traditional publish and self-publish. So could you talk a little bit about how you manage those two things, and do you fuse the two careers? Do you cross the streams or keep them separate? And tell us about that.
I'm actually not doing the traditional anymore. I have my old Berkeley books, but I don't have any new contracts. And personally, I feel like I didn't fuse them well at all. I had these traditional contracts, and it was like, oh my God, I have to fulfill my editor's needs. This is the most important. And I subjugated my own indie publishing to doing that. And I felt that really hurt me as far as the indie publishing goes, because I didn't get my indie books out. I didn't get any Jennifer Skully books out because I was doing just the Jasmine Haynes for Berkeley. And so I did not, in my opinion, fuse that very well. I wish I had done it a lot better. I wish I'd been much more exacting about doing one thing in the morning and one thing in the afternoon, or somehow merging them so that I was able to get my own books out as well. And as a result, I didn't have an indie published book out for about, over a year, 18 months, I think. Mm-hmm. And I believe that really hurt my indie career. Because it's like you write the Berkeley book or you write the traditional book, it doesn't come out for another year. Right. And then I jumped into writing the second one right away because it was a 2-book contract, and I didn't get anything else out. And so I think that really hurt. And I wish I had had a better way of doing it. I think in hindsight, what I really needed to do was say, here's my 3-month stretch for writing the published book. Or the traditionally published book, and then sit down and write just a rough draft of the next book, then, my indie published book, then go back and revise the traditional book and send it in that, but, do something like that so that I was kind of doing both at the same time. So yeah, when I saw that question you had for me, I'm thinking, oh my God, I was a total failure at it. But I think that there's probably a better way of doing it than what I did. I think you've got to, if you're going to do both, you have to set up a schedule for yourself where you're doing one, or maybe just a piece of one. It's like, okay, I'm doing the rough draft of this book. Then I'm going to do the rough draft of this one. Then I'm going to do the revision, which I kind of like that because it gives you time away from one book, and it sort of cogitates in the back of your mind, and then when you come back to it, it's all fresh. So I think I wish I had done something like that. And that's what I'm trying to do with the books that I'm doing with Bella Andre. As I do a piece of this, I do the outline, and I do a bit of my indie, and then I go back and do the other one, so that there's sort of more of an integration of the two ways of doing it.
Okay.
How do you do yours, Carolyn?
Well, I'm actually not traditionally publishing anymore. I think back in 2012, I turned down, an additional contract with Berkeley, and I had already left Hachette before that. So, but during that period, well, there was overlap. I kind of had the issue that you did. There were indie projects that, if I had sat down and done a pure sort of cost-benefit analysis or opportunity cost, which Bella Andre pointed out to me and was totally 100% right.
She's always right.
Yes, she is.
That's what Carolyn says.
I should have walked away from those contracts from the very start, and worked on the indie stuff. That would have would have been a better thing to do. But again, it's been like since 2012. I've been purely indie since then, and just as kind of like you, I'm hampered by the books that are still with traditional publishers. So far, it's just been really frustrating.
Trying to get the rights back, and yeah.
Oh, I don't even want to get started on that. I just find it really frustrating to know that I have books that could be positioned much more strongly in the market, and I just can't. And I have no indication from past behavior that tells me it's a worthwhile risk to think that they would work with me on effective marketing on the books that they do have. Yeah. I don't see it. I kind of wish they'd change that. I wish they'd I wish I could believe them, but
Yeah.
I think they
experience.
Yeah, and I think they barely have time to promote the books on their front. The books that they're coming out with. They don't consider the old books. They're not.
Yeah, they're not
anywhere in mind.
Yeah, they're not going to do anything with those.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing is I was, I'm not graphically talented. So to the extent that I do Facebook ads, I either have to have something really, really simple, or I reach out to someone who's very good at graphics to do that. And when I was reaching out to the person I'm going to be working with on Facebook ads, I was looking at a bunch of ads and to gather images of give you a worldview of what's going on with the ads. And by and large, the traditional published ads were terrible.
Really?
The images were just horrible. I don't think they understand how Facebook ads work at all. It was
interesting. Wow.
Someone over there needs to take Mark Dawson's course, number one. Because at least I think that their minds would be blown about how you fix, how you vet images. Quick side story, because this was actually really interesting. At RWA, I was on a panel talking about Facebook ads, and
I attended that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So you saw those two images,
yes.
And that when I said, well, which image do you think performed better on Facebook? Well, everybody, including me, when I first was doing this, raised their hand on the image that performed the worst.
I remember that, and I was blown away. It's but once you think about it, it was the man's. One of them didn't have the man's hand, and the other one did. And it was on her waist.
Yes.
But if you really think about it, that hand actually made a big difference, because that was the romantic piece of it, was his hand on her back. But I never would have thought about that until after you said, this one didn't put the other one where his hand wasn't showing didn't perform as well. But if you really look at it and go, yeah, just his hand is actually kind of this romantic connection, whereas otherwise they're just kind of face to face.
Yes.
That
it was just stunning to me when I saw the performance difference, because it wasn't like a little difference, it was a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge, enormous difference. And to me that was like, okay, you really have to vet ad images carefully, and I'm not sure that traditional publishers are doing that. Based on what I saw of the images that they were that they have in their ads, they're these text heavy, not so.
But are they doing any split testing at all? Do they have the time to even do that? I would tend to doubt it.
I would bet that they don't. I bet they just, it's the same with covers. This is your cover. This is what you get. If it fails, it fails. And they're never going to go back and make another cover. And I think they probably have the same thing about the ads. We think this is great. This is what we're going to put out there. And if it fails, it's not because of them. It's because of the book.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how they look at it. I bet they don't do any of that vet testing.
Yeah, I have a feeling that because they come from this heavily print world where how an ad performs in print is completely different from how it's going to perform digitally. It's two different graphic styles. Yeah. And I don't think they cross over well at all. It's a very rare image, I think, that will perform well in both spaces. Because they don't have the same function.
Right. The function on the Facebook ad is boom. That you get one chance, that eye. And if you don't catch it right away, you're gone. Nobody's going to read it. It's got to be that image that just grabs that eye.
So we segued a little bit, but that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Hold on. So I'm going to move on to the next question, which is, what do you feel is your biggest challenge in your writing business, and thoughts about solutions?
Oh, Carolyn,
I'm going to be taking notes.
You know what my biggest challenge is, and it is promotion and marketing. I really just want to write. I don't want to market. I really don't.
Me neither.
I know. So that is my biggest challenge. And some of the ideas that you have given me and other wonderful ladies have given me, my solution for now is I'm really going to try to grow my newsletter list. I don't do my own newsletter or my own website. I have people doing that for me. So I'm working with them on adding special things on the website where I could have special content that only members can go to, and kind of mixing things up that way, doing more giveaways that are just for my newsletter. Because I tend not to do the giveaways on my newsletter. And I think most of that is because I don't see a lot of reaction from the newsletter, a lot of clicks and that kind of thing open. So I'm going to really concentrate on having more content for my readers on my newsletter, who are the people that said they were interested in me. And I haven't started my Facebook ads, but that is something your class was great, but I still need to learn so much more about doing them. So I'm going to definitely look at that. So I want to have more time on Facebook. I'm on there, but mostly I'm advertising my other friends, talking about books they're putting out and stuff. And I want to get in there, and I've been trying to do that, get in more and just talk with readers.
Is this your personal page or your author page?
Both. I actually treat my profile page and my fan page the same. It's all Jennifer Skully, Jasmine Haynes. It's not. I don't put anything. I put personal stuff on in that pictures of my cat.
Right.
But I don't put personal stuff. I don't have a personal page where it's just, family or anything would, So I kind of, with Facebook, I treat it as an advertising element and not as a real connection to my family or anything like that, or my friends. So this would be just something that I use for advertising and promotion. But at the same time, you need to be more personal with readers. They want to know more things about you. And so some of the ideas that Sharon Hamilton gave me about kinds of things to put on there. And I've been getting a lot more likes, and not likes, but exposure, I guess you call it. What's it called in there? It's like more people are looking at it.
More eyeballs. Yeah.
Reach.
Yeah, more eyeballs are looking at it. And so that seems to be working. I've gotten a little bit more attention. And so I'm terrible in that, for a few days I'll be really good about putting stuff out there, and then I'll get busy and I don't put out the stuff out there for a few days. And I've got to get more in a routine, just connecting and putting my name out there so that the readers that do know me are at least going to be interested in what I'm talking about.
For a while, I had a really good thing going, which now I'm being lazy about and haven't been doing, but I saw a huge difference that I would spend an hour or so on the weekend, and I would schedule on the Facebook page 3 posts, one in the morning, afternoon, and evening. And, so 3 posts a day, and they were all pretty, personal, the cat pictures and stuff like that. And then I would go into Facebook every, once a day or so and like comments and respond back, but I didn't have to think of anything to post. And the reach went up literally exponentially. The more
Really?
So you did 3 posts for one day?
Per day. One of my best friends, Juliet Blackwell, does this, and she schedules them out. She does it all in one day for the week, but then things are constantly landing on her Facebook page, and fans love it. They absolutely love it. So it's not all personal. It's like she'll read something on Atlas Obscura that's cool, and she'll post that link and say something about it. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Carolyn?
So, just so I understand, she takes one day and then schedules posts for the following week.
For the rest of the week, yeah. So
for the rest of the
3
week.
3 posts a day, every day for the rest of the week. Huh. And it's crazy.
And what time zone does she use? Do you know?
She's PST and Pacific, and I've noticed that she does it around, because basically I went in and I told her I was doing this, but I was studying her Facebook mannerisms because she's so good at it. Around 8 or so, and then around noon, and then around 6. So kind of around, I think of it as around meal times. Because that's when a lot of people are checking Facebook. And so I think she usually does like maybe 1 personal thing and 2 cool links that she likes. And
that's good. Yeah. I need to get into Facebook and not just Facebook, but into the internet and pull out some really cool things I see and kind of save them up.
That's hard. Exactly.
It's like, okay, you find a bunch of them and then save them up. And that's a great idea. Okay.
I had them on an Excel spreadsheet too. I would just post the links every time I found something. And then when I was blanking out, I would go pull some. And it's really easy to say, this is so cool, or isn't this neat link,
Yeah. So. Yeah, because there's a lot of fun stuff. And I even see it on Facebook. I'll find these little kitty links where I found one the other day. And this one did real well, which is a little cat was getting a bath. It was a little Persian, this tiny, and she had a little shower cap on, and the lady was using a toothbrush to wash her. People loved that one, and it was so cute. I find a lot of those, and I think, people seem to enjoy that kind of thing too. So it's like, or a cool, I see a cool purse or a cool pair of shoes. It's like, whoa, I would love to have those. And people really seem to enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the best one I ever did was there is a rock in Norway that it's a boulder stuck between 2 mountains. And there was a picture of this guy standing up on it. It's over this huge fjord. Like, if you fell, you would die. And it was so cool. So I just put up that picture, and people were like, oh, I would. No, I wouldn't get on that. No, I would. Oh, yeah, I got to do that. It did so well. And actually, I told my cousin is Norwegian. I told her, you have to take me to this rock. I need to have my picture on this rock.
Yes.
The reality of it is that you can walk up to it and you just climb onto it from the back side. But everybody takes the picture from the front side so that you see the fjord and it looks like you're standing out in the middle of, oh my God, I could just fall and die. But you really aren't.
Awesome.
So it's kind of this hidden joke. So I said, oh my God, yeah.
My fear of heights is kicking in right this minute.
I think you would probably look at that picture and say, no, I'm not going to do that. You're crazy.
No.
But those kinds of things seem to do really well where you're asking for people's opinion on what they think of something.
I think there's even more there. There's you're asking for their opinion on something that is emotional, and that's something that people can disagree on, and without fear of political disagreement or that's really, people like to argue over the best thing to put into a cake mix or whether they would get on a rock. That's a fun argument to have.
Yeah. I don't put anything political up. I don't even go there. I try not to have any opinions whatsoever because you've got, I want to get in the middle of the fight between readers, you know.
Yeah.
So I try to find something that, like this, where it's like, would you or wouldn't you?
I had an interesting one
Oh.
the other day. I posted a question and I picked an arbitrary amount. I said, if you had $5,200 to spend, which of these 5 things would you spend it on? I said jewelry, a purse, a pair of shoes, or artwork, and that got a lot of double the usual sort of answers.
That's a great one.
Most people picked art.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
But
surprisingly,
I'm cheap, and I would never pay $5,200 for a pair of shoes.
No, but you've been given $5,200. That's the point. Someone says, "Here's $5,200. You have to spend it on."
Oh my God! See, I still wouldn't be able to use it on a pair of shoes. I would still have to do the artwork.
I would do jewelry. Jewelry for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was torn between purse and jewelry, but I was kind of thinking, oh man, but art. And then I was thinking, but maybe that's not enough for the kind of art that I would really want to buy.
But that's a great question. See, those are wonderful things. It's not something people are going to fight about. It's just something that makes them think.
Yeah.
And that, I went and saw Star Trek the other day, so I was going to put on there, are you a Trekkie or are you not? Because I'm a total Trekkie. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sad. They had the dedication at the ending to Spock and Chekhov, who had passed away, and it was like, oh, I mean, it was. Yeah. I know it's Trekkie, but it was emotional. But I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a really good job, so I'm very pleased. Every time they come out with a new one, I'm very pleased. Are you guys Trekkies?
No, my wife is, so I go.
Oh,
yeah, my whole family is, so I'm Trekkie adjacent, really.
My sister's a bigger Trekkie than I am, and I enjoy the Star Trek movies, but those kind of middle ones that were 25 minutes of slow-mo on the Enterprise kind of killed something in me.
Yeah.
But the last Star Trek movie I really enjoyed, and so I feel like maybe it's safe to
go back.
I'm hearing great things. Yeah.
I think they did a really good job with the reboot of the whole franchise, with taking it back in time and making it when they were younger.
Yeah, I agree.
It kind of opened up whole new worlds for them. But see, this to me, this is another great thing to put on Facebook. Is like, are you a Trekkie? Or are you not a Trekkie? Because there are, I mean, that's sort of this universal thing. I think everybody knows about.
Everyone
Trekkies.
has an opinion.
Yeah,
and it's safe to share. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're putting that question out about what would you do with $5,200. It really makes me think about all the questions that we can ask people that get them engaged, and they're not opinionated.
Right.
I think that's a great idea too.
Yeah,
I got to think about more of those.
I'm stealing that idea too.
It's not stealing. We give.
Yes,
we give.
That's true. We all give.
That's right. So we can kind of wrap things up with. What's your advice for authors starting out in romance?
RWA, join it, learn your craft. I had written 7 or 8 books before I went to RWA, and they are all in a drawer. Never. Well, actually, I don't even know if I have them anymore. I think they're all gone. I would never try to publish them.
Yeah.
RWA teaches you how to write. Unfortunately, I think with self-publishing, what I see is that many people, they write the book and they put it out there. And unfortunately, it's not really ready to go. And writing is a craft. It's a skill. You can be a writer, but you really need to learn the skill as well. So that's my advice to first-time new writers, romance. Actually, any writer should go to RWA.
I agree.
Because RWA is the only association that really teaches you how to write. The other ones like mystery writers and all of that, they're more about after you're published, and not about how do you really learn to write. I went to a seminar, a workshop with Robert Crace, who's a big mystery writer. I love his stuff, and he's also really cute. But he said, I mean, this was in a mystery writers conference. He said, if you want to learn how to write, join RWA.
I love
They will
that.
teach you how to write, and they'll teach you how to write mystery or whatever it is you want to write. But they teach the craft of writing. And I totally agree with what he said, is that they're the only organization that really gives you that background. And I know from writing those 7 books without RWA that they're crap. And you really need to put out, when you're starting out, you need to put out the best thing that you can.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my advice. Join RWA and learn how to write.
When I think about if I had started writing later, and my first 3 books that I wrote that are on, I think they're on like a 5.5-inch floppy disk somewhere. I think they're completely inaccessible, luckily. But if they were actually, if I'd put them out, I would be so horrified, like just so horrified.
Yeah, yeah, and I have seen some books out there now that they horrify me. And I think that those writers really are doing themselves a disservice by not learning the craft first, because the craft really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question for all 3 of us, and that is, for example, I have judged books in contests where it was pretty clear that there had been no editing or proofreading. There was literally a book that I realize now had probably been dictated, because now that I do some dictation, I recognize the error pattern. Mm-hmm. But the word shudder, shudder, instead of shutter. So, yeah. And that was like in the first sentence of this particular book. And I'm looking at this going, okay. So, but if let's say I'm correct and the person dictated. They dictated and did not proofread. What the? And so here's my question. So assuming that you actually are going into writing because you love writing and you want to have good books out there, I think there's a class of people who apparently just think they can get into romance and, make some money and whoa. But I mean, how do you recognize that? What are the things that you have to do to go, yeah, you can't just spell check, because shudder and shutter are definitely 2 words, but you can't not pay someone to proofread. But how do you, I don't know, hopefully at RWA you would be hearing, got to do it, and you'd be in critique groups and people would be like, going with the...
Right. But it's almost like I hate to say this, but the Darwin Awards, it's self-selecting. What will happen to a person like that who has probably heard that they need an editor and has rejected it out of hand? They'll put the book up and they'll get terrible reviews, and they'll ultimately fail at this writing gig, which perhaps they would have gotten good at and loved as a profession, which makes me sad. So I don't know. What do you think, Jennifer?
I think it is survival of the fittest. If you are not willing to spend the time to look at your own stuff with an open mind, and actually, if you look up a word in the dictionary and say, oh, wow, I'm using the wrong word here. I mean, I do that now. It's like I'm using a word on here and it's like, I'm not sure. Is that the right word? And then I'll go and look it up. If you can't even have that much effort, then I can't say you deserve to fail, but you will fail. And and you'll blame it on self-publishing isn't really what everybody says it is. You'll blame it on other things. You won't look at your own writing and say, well, I didn't put my best effort into it. I would never have considered sending something even to a contest that had errors like that. I mean, I know that you end up with a few typos because you just miss them. You just do.
Yeah.
But when you see things like that, where you can see that the person obviously didn't even read it after they wrote it, it's a person who isn't serious, I think. They aren't really serious about this, which is kind of sad, especially like with contests where all of us are giving our time to critique you, that you wouldn't take that same time to send me something to read that you think is valuable, But yeah, I'm like survival of the fittest. If you can't do that stuff, then you really aren't. You really shouldn't be here, because it's not easy. This is not an easy job. I mean, it's heartbreak. It's hard work. It's blood, sweat, and tears. And you guys know that. You put your own blood, sweat, and tears in there. So if people aren't willing to do that small thing, then
That was a very good audio effect.
sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, I think you've got to have some a courtesy. I mean, isn't that even courtesy?
Yes, I agree.
I mean, and it's a courtesy if you're going to put a book out, not just for contest, but if you're going to put a book out on the internet, isn't it courtesy to your reader to give them something that you've really at least paid somebody to find your typos? Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know?
I find it ironic, of course, the very best proofreaders don't usually take on new people unless they've seen, like a couple thousand words, just so that they can say no if it's something that's just so bad proofreading's not the problem.
Yeah.
Even proofreading isn't going to help this.
Exactly.
Right.
Because you should be proofreading, not go back and learn about subject-verb agreement.
Grammar, right.
Yeah, editors and proofreaders, maybe an editor, I guess. No, even an editor shouldn't have to look at basic crap like that.
No.
I mean, that's not what they're for either.
But
you need to give them your best work.
Yep.
And then, because, we're sort of in a bubble when we're writing our own thing, right? You can't always see what's wrong with it, but you can make it the best work you feel it is before you hand it off to somebody else. And I think that that's what all writers should be doing, is give somebody, whether it's a contest or a critique partner or an editor or whatever, give them the best thing, the best book that you have, and then get their help from that. Don't just give something, and I've had this with some critiques I've had, where they haven't put their best foot forward. You need to put your best foot forward before you put stuff out there to anyone else. At least give it your best shot. And Shutter versus Shutter is not your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Well, and if listeners are at this point panicked and don't know how to do this, then we'll reiterate: get thee to an RWA meeting online. If you're not near one in person, join online. There's just a million resources. The first group I joined was Kiss of Death, which is the mystery writers. And I was going to meetings at the Berkeley chapter as well, but I took a ton of online classes from them, and they were all great. And just our meetings that we have every month, and in our area we've got several chapters that people can go to and workshop it up. Workshop it up. On that note, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I haven't taken any of the online university classes at RWA, the online stuff that they have that's in, I guess it's called the university. Have you guys taken any of those?
I have not. I've heard great things.
Because that would be another thing people could look into.
Yeah.
I've heard people really, really love those. Really, really love them.
Tessa Dare recently taught something, and she's awesome. So anything that she offers is, because I heard that, I thought, ooh, maybe I should go back, and I don't know if you can go in and retroactively read through stuff. I haven't even looked, and I should. But
good idea.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your time and your Sunday with us. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Awesome. Okay. Well, happy writing to you.
Thank you, and you guys too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay, I think it's just you and me now.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yes, it was. That was
great.
really interesting. I like her approach. And I think a lot about that in the pre-self-publishing days. The way you knew whether you were getting close or not was, the quality of your rejections.
Yeah.
And whether you were getting any requests for reads, and
right.
There's something to that gatekeeper thing that's sort of not there, or it's potentially not there with the self-publishing, when somebody who's just apparently dictated one draft and then decided, no point in looking at it further, which I just find it really insulting that any person would do that. I think it's damaging everywhere because it just feeds into that whole perception that self-publishing is nothing but, terrible books by people who just looking to make a buck, which, so I'm hoping that the Darwin effect, I actually think it's happening now.
I do too. I really, really do. I see that. Well, what is your week like writing wise?
Well, still, I'm still in the middle of, the first set of kind of really massive revisions. It's sort of over in the personal private life. It's been kind of a tough week, and I got a little bit behind, but hopefully things will pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm very close, but like you get in the middle of it, and it just seems like, why did I ever want to do this again? Oh my God.
There's that whole the kitchen phrase that people use in professional kitchens, which is in the weeds. When you're so far under, you don't think you're ever going to get it all done. And it happens every book, right?
It does. It does. And it doesn't matter how many times I tell myself, it's happened before and it came out okay and it was a really good book. It's like, no, this is the one. Is going to be the one that fails.
Yep. I tell my wife that every single time, and every single time she says, yep, your last book was the one you couldn't finish either. I know. You got through that, so.
Yeah, but, better late than not where it should be.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I would rather have that.
Oh, yes. Well, for me, I'm well into the third Darling Songbird book. Had a really good writing week on that, and it's just really fun. I'm really, really liking this book. And I hate first drafts, and I don't hate this one yet, so I'm a little suspicious. So I don't think it's going to last. But right now we're in the honeymoon phase. I predict a fight. This week. There will be knife throwing. All right. Well, I wish you happy writing. And we will talk again next week.
Yep.
Okay. Bye.